And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880 and on YouTube at realestateshowOregon.com. I'm Pete Belcastro. This is Alice Lima here. We're both real estate brokers with John L. Scott. We get together with you once a week here on the radio and on YouTube to talk about our favorite topic, of course, real estate and what's going on with it in Jackson, Josephine County, Southern Oregon in general, and anything else we can think of.
Yeah, it's never run out of things to talk about when it comes to Southern Oregon real estate.
And how have you been doing? You've been busy this time, and we're here. We're mid-November. We got the holidays coming up. How have you been doing?
Yeah, we still have people that are putting their homes on the market, not as frequently as during the summer, but we still have people getting their homes on the market. We still have an awful lot of buyers out there in all price ranges.
What's concerning, I think, is that the overall inventory level is just right hovering at about 1,000, just a little bit over that. We haven't seen that low in several years. So that's how much has been moving. So that part of the market is a little bit shaky right now as we go into winter. A real low supply of inventory, especially in the $500,000 range and below. Right? Okay.
Yep.
We'll see what happens.
Potential shortage.
The fellow right next to you, put those headsets on there, Roger. Roger Kainu from the Oregon Department of Energy is with us, and Roger's an energy analyst with the department. And you've been doing this a long time. First of all, welcome to the show.
Well,
thank you for being here. You got to talk right into that baby there.
Thank you very much, Pete.
And you've been an analyst a long time with the department, right?
Well, actually, with the Department of Energy, about 5.5 years, but I've been working in the energy industry for about 30 years.
Yeah, you were with Pacific Power, Pacific Corporation.
Pacific Power, yeah. Pacific Core, and before that, Clark Public Utilities up in Vancouver.
Yeah. I was trying to think back, when did energy, when I was a little kid, I don't know you, Alice, but when I was a little kid, we didn't really talk much about energy efficiency around. I mean, I never ever remember having that discussion until someone in the 70s, or when did all this kind of start that this became such a big thing?
I think those of us that are of an age really can look back to when Jimmy Carter's administration was in effect. And back in that point in time, there was a embargo on oil. And that's what got me started in the industry. It was tough. I mean, there was a lot of oil that was coming in, but it was shut off due to some issues with out-of-country oil.
Yeah.
And in that, we had gas lines, people waiting for to get gas in their tanks and that sort of thing. It created a lot of acrimony. And Jimmy Carter at the time came on the radio and TV, and he indicated that what we need to do as a nation is to conserve, which is different than efficiency. But conserve, meaning you put on a sweater and you turn down your thermostat down to 67. People, they did that for that point in time, but that was a start of what would become an energy efficiency movement.
A movement, and that's really what it was, isn't it?
Right.
You could do, I don't know, over the years, I think I've used different programs that have been out there. There's incentives to do this and that with your home.
Right.
And, when you build and add new things, right?
Right, absolutely. And in your area here, it's the Energy Trust of Oregon. That's an organization that is funded by the local utilities. In this case, it's Pacific Power in your area. And that utility is mandated to perform by bringing about a piece of their revenues and giving it to the Energy Trust of Oregon, which they're experts at bringing energy efficient equipment to the area.
And I think as you said, 3% of your utility bill goes to the Energy Trust of Oregon for this program, right?
It's called the Public Purpose Charge.
And that's where they're getting the money then to do some of the retrofits and things like that people do.
Exactly.
So, and is that windows and insulation? What exactly are they helping with?
These days, not so much. They're mandated by the Oregon Public Utility Commission to produce incentives that are cost effective. And there's a whole mathematical equation behind that. We don't need to get into that. But what it means is that we just can't pay for a lot of things to be done. I mean, if a home requires windows, there's ways to go about that to get them installed. But we're not going to retrofit, or the Energy Trust of Oregon isn't going to retrofit your home with windows these days because they're very expensive for the energy payback you get per square foot.
Wasn't there a lot of tax credits, things like that were out there for energy updates and efficiencies? And those are still out there, I think.
No, actually, that went by the wayside.
Everything did.
Yeah, there was a lot of overlapping incentives for people, and the legislature kind of felt that, it might be time to roll back the residential energy tax credit program. Because the Energy Trust of Oregon really does suit that need, providing incentives or rebates for people to get efficiency measures done.
Yeah. Do you see much with your clients regarding energy efficiency in homes when you show properties
I
or
do.
you list properties? Tell me what your
It's a
experience is.
constant conversation, and it's really interesting because it didn't used to be that way.
Right.
So it feels that it's a organic movement coming from the consumer. Yeah,
I like hearing that.
it makes a big difference when somebody writes an offer. They want to know what the whole bill is going to be for the home, not just their mortgage payment.
So you see people then asking, I don't get too much of that, asking about the utility bills and things like that, but you do. I mean, people do want that.
They do,
but
yeah, they
the
very
point
much
being,
so.
That information, we should have that should we have that information available to a buyer from the seller in a transaction,
And it
right?
would be and it would be nice if it was listing driven, so that it was already on the listing on MLS. If it had some of that information available, then it wouldn't be so many long hours on hold on the phone.
Well, what Roger's so what Roger's here for is that you have within the Department of Energy have developed a program which is a home energy scoring program, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let me give you the background
Okay.
on that. Starting in about 2009, the legislature asked the Department of Energy and other stakeholders to come together and determine whether or not there could be a scoring system within the state that would make sense for all of the state. And those stakeholders and energy experts at that time determined that a voluntary program versus a mandatory program could work within the state.
Okay.
That would mean that you would determine what that system would look like. You'd want to create a framework and create assessors that are actually professioned, trained, and you would bring this system into the state, and voluntarily you would ask people to get these home energy scores using one system within the state. And you can imagine anything that's voluntary, how much uptake do you think there would be?
Well, a lot of it. I mean, I can see that, yeah. But the concept of it, and this would try maybe for our viewers, and make sure I get this right, it would sound it's similar to where you would get like a home inspection for your house, right? We do that for that. You have that option, or you get a lead-based paint test or whatever.
A radon test.
A radon test. You're adding basically a home energy scoring option.
Correct.
To the list, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
And okay.
So it being voluntary, you won't get a lot of uptake. And people are yet unwilling because they really don't understand the benefits of home energy scoring, understanding what goes on in their home.
Right.
They just think that the home that they're buying has all of the things that they normally would think were there. It looks like good windows. Are they good windows? I don't know. So you end up buying homes without really knowing what the characteristics of the home are. This score will inform them, give them a better perspective. Not only, even if it has a lower score, it gives them the information to tell them what they can do to better the score.
Improve the score.
And all of the recommendations on this score are payback within 10 years. That means after 10 years, it's all money coming back to you. And some of them are within 2 years. So why wouldn't you make that investment?
Now, I remember a couple years ago, the city of Portland adopted this program, and they made it a mandatory program.
Correct.
So if you listed a place in Portland, you would have to have a energy score on the listing for the buyer to see, correct?
Correct.
And how has that worked? Now, mandatory. Now, how's that work?
Right. Much different than voluntary. In fact, let me just back up if I can and explain a situation I went through in getting that policy in place. And it wasn't me, it was everyone got this policy in place. When the city of Portland considered having a mandatory policy, they came to the state of Oregon and asked about our system that we had put in place, and we explained it all to them. And it's a wonderful framework. We use the US DOE, bunch of technical people there. They use national labs to explain and calculate all of the things that go into this score.
Okay,
so now we
right.
know that it's a robust system. But the city of Portland, they conducted a focus group at the city of Portland. And some of us technical geeky people were in the back of the room behind the screen where a focus group of consumers, about 15 consumers, were at a table. And there were folks that were just looking for real estate. They were thinking about buying a home in the next year. They didn't have any understanding what energy efficiency was all about. And there was a facilitator that would facilitate a discussion with all of those consumers. And so the facilitator kicked off the discussion, and we all, behind the scenes, we were watching to see how people would respond to this idea of a mandatory score. And you can imagine,
To your surprise, maybe?
People were a little surprised that Portland was even considering a mandatory score. And they just didn't have any way with it. They did not like the idea that because of mandatory, we'll be able to sell our house, that kind of thing. And once the facilitator really discussed with them what the benefits are, you'll be able to understand what the windows do, what the R value of the attic and the walls and the floor, the orientation of the home on the property. And then you'll give it a score, and you'll be able to compare that score from your neighborhood to the one down the street. So it's comparable. When that group, the focus group, figured that out, they actually turned and looked at each other and said, why did the state not make this a mandatory score?
That's an interesting
That
question.
is, yeah.
Mandatory versus voluntary and that kind of a thing. So a person has to, what does it cost in Portland to have, you call them an assessment? Assessment.
Mm-hmm.
What does it cost generally for a seller to have that done in the Portland area?
It's a range of about $125 to $200 right now.
So that's very affordable.
I think so.
It's not that much, I suppose, like that. And do you do them for condo? I mean, Portland has lots of condo buildings. If single family houses, do you do them for everything that's listed?
Not everything.
Okay.
Yeah. We can't do stacked units, but you can do side by sides.
Stacked would be like large buildings.
Multifamily, right?
Okay.
Right.
But you go.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
The technical folks are working on it. They'll be able to come up with something in the future, but not now.
And what about what about commercial buildings?
There is another way of doing that. City of Portland also has a commercial benchmarking.
Right.
It's a mandatory, where you get the meter readings off of every large scale building, and you sort of calculate what that energy usage is, and you inform the public that may want to lease that space.
Yes, it's the same thing, isn't it, for both?
Mm-hmm. And more information is good. Yeah,
The
I know
thing
people
that's
don't like
different
mandatory, but more is good.
The thing that's different with the commercial is it's not using an assessor. No one goes on site. You use the energy bills.
The energy bills calculate that
yeah.
for the commercial buildings. So we got a break coming up here. So the $1 million question, Roger, that probably everyone who's listening or watching this is that if it's mandatory in Portland, is it coming the rest of the state? Is it or what kind of just where's that heading to? Or what's that going to happen with that?
Well, it can come to the rest of the state, and we're not pushing for that. We're just there as cities, jurisdictions like counties. If they want to adopt the scoring system, they can definitely do that. Voluntary or mandatory.
So the city of Medford could do that, for
Absolutely.
example.
I'll be in their office talking to them if they want.
Yeah, and the city of Ashland would be probably one that would would like to do that.
I'm working with Hood River, Corvallis, Milwaukee, Bend, Eugene, Springfield.
Okay. So there is interest in there. We're going to talk about what that means for buyers and sellers, because and what are the things they're going to look for when they score your house. Maybe you want to know about that. Anyway, we're with Roger Kainu. He's from the Oregon Department of Energy. By the way, today's show is sponsored by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. Our friends there, of course. RogueValleyRealtors.org is their address. Pete and Alice, we're coming right back to the Real Estate Show right after this. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880 and on YouTube at realestateshoworegon.com. Pete Belcastro and Alice Lima with you in the house today, mid-November. Thanks for joining us. You can check out any of our past shows at our website at realestateshoworegon.com. Always some great shows we've had in the past. By the way, this last week, you know what yesterday, the 15th, meant? Property taxes were due.
That's right. Your first installment or in full?
No, I paid it with the 3%. No, I did that. I love writing that check. That's my favorite check of the year to write. Several checks of those. But anyway, they were due yesterday. Hope you got it postmarked, because if you didn't, you're going to get dinged. Lots of money coming in. Governments are happy when they get their November 15th rolls around.
That's what keeps it all rolling.
Get their money. Anyway, we're with Roger Kainu. Roger's from the Oregon Department of Energy. Today's show presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. And Roger from the department has developed the program Home Energy Scoring. Right? It's a fascinating topic. I think it's going to be coming to I think it's coming our way in mandatory or voluntary. I wish it almost would be mandatory in some ways.
Well,
I still think about that one. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but it's on people's minds, so it's good timing.
Yeah, consumers have really picked up on it. There's no doubt about that. We have a lot more people that are interested in energy efficiency. Although Oregon has been a leader. Let's face it, since the 70s, Oregon's been a leader in energy efficiency. I have a couple of numbers that I wanted to share with you. Oregon's population, between the brackets of 2000 and 2016,
Okay.
the population of Oregon has went up 19%. The Oregon GDP, gross domestic product, has went up 93%. So this is an economy. It's an economy to deal with. Energy efficiency, or at least the energy use within Oregon, has went down 12.5%.
In
Oh,
that time
that's
period. That's amazing,
interesting.
isn't
Wow.
it?
So we're driving faster, more efficiently.
That's
I like
amazing.
that. Yeah.
That really is. That's interesting information to know. So it's kind of filters down to the house. If you ordered this kind of an inspection,
Which I'm going to.
I know you are. I knew that one
already
was
called
coming.
We can get you
somebody.
covered.
Okay. What are you going to what are the things that are going to be looked at that are going to go
Yeah,
into
what's
the
on the
scoring?
list?
Yeah, what's going to be scoring me here?
So a professional assessor will show up, and they'll walk inside your house. First, they'll take a look at the orientation of your home, the way it faces, if it's south, west, north, that sort of thing. It all makes a difference in how efficient your home is. And they'll come on inside. They'll take a look at the wall insulation, the attic insulation, the windows. They'll take a look at the floor insulation. They'll look at the heating equipment that you have in your home, whether it's gas or electric, and what type of equipment, how efficient the equipment
Does
is.
it matter by age?
It does matter by age,
Okay.
equipment, and by the home.
Okay.
That you can tell a lot by a home just by asking what the age is. Even though people have done a lot of remedial type energy efficiency measures, you can still tell a lot by the history of the home. There's also the water tank. That's something that people should be taking a look at every 10 years. You should be taking a look at your water tank to see if it needs replacing. And there's some really good technologies out, like the heat pump water heater. It's 300% efficient compared to a 0.67 or a 67% efficient electric tank.
Well, what is a heat pump water heater?
It's taking a little bitty heat pump and putting on top of a electric water heater.
so
Really?
And it's just the way that it heats the water. It can be 3 times as efficient.
it sounds smaller too. Is it?
No, it's not. You can get them in smaller gallon
Oh, okay.
sizes, but it's just super efficient.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. They're becoming more popular in the marketplace. They're quite a bit more expensive, but the payback period is what we try to help people understand. It's overcoming that anxiety that people have of the upfront cost of things. But within 2 to 5 to 7 years, you can pay off that investment and then start reclaiming it by the efficiency that you gain in the savings. Does that make sense
That's
to
where
you?
it comes from. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What about appliances?
Well, appliances are a big deal. Nowadays, we have the big federal logo. It's the blue logo on appliances that show it's an Energy Star rated piece of equipment. And that's a really good thing. Folks should be looking for that anytime they walk in their big box store or the local shop down the street that is selling appliances.
I have clients ask about that kind of stuff more so than the other. The kind of appliances that are there, how new are they? Are they energy efficient? I do hear that.
Yeah, and it's just a general level of consciousness, I guess. People just want to know what they're getting into.
Even to the point where you should buying a TV. People don't often think about that,
Oh.
but there's TVs out there that use a ton of energy. The screen's bigger, but wow, they have a lot of capacity and a lot of power going in and through them, and some of them don't turn off at night. So that's not an Energy Star rated TV if it doesn't turn off.
So how do you find that out ahead of time?
Well, for one thing, you look at the blue logo that's on the TV, and the salesperson should be adept at explaining that to you. But you can also go to the Energy Star website and take a look at all of the different appliances that they have a credential for.
Interesting. So the new technology for making houses more smart and integrated and using the cloud to turn things off and on, where do you see that fitting in?
Oh, I think it's the thing of the future. I really do. I know a lot of big industry, some of the biggest industry in the world is looking at this, trying to make smart homes more effective. You have your smart thermostat. You can also turn on and off your heat pump water heater if you make that investment. And you can just kind of control your home from your smartphone. You can set all this stuff as you want, or it can track you, like a smart thermostat can track your norm. Like when I left the house this morning, my thermostat would go down automatically to a lower temperature.
I love those.
You're controlling your consumption.
Right, it's a behavioral look at controlling your consumption instead of turning it down manually.
I wonder how long that's going to take to catch on. Do you
I
see
bet
it?
not very long.
Do you see new construction having a lot of smart, all smart?
The custom
kind of thing
ones,
like
the
that?
custom ones do. Yeah,
But
they
those
have
are up
quite a.
there, but those are always up there in the high end. You know, I guess they go first. You know, they're up there in
Yeah,
the
they're the
expensive homes.
They're the leaders.
And I don't see that in the $300,000 the new homes
But
that
the
kind of thing, right?
But let me tell you, though, the Oregon Energy Code for residential construction is extremely high. It's the highest in the nation
It
right now.
is.
So you already are buying a very efficient home. It's actually going to make a move. It's stated to be in 2020 to a zero energy ready home.
Right.
Right
Yeah,
now, we're
yeah.
dealing with a 2017 code that is leading the nation.
Now remember, zero energy, and we did a show on that not that long ago. That's going to change the way construction is going to take place, certainly in our state, because you then remember the zero energy. You can't have any escaping, and the airtight homes.
Right. The
and
idea is to control
this
the
is-
environment.
Yeah. So that's mandatory, right?
With your current code, you have a 2017 code that's in place
Okay.
right now, and that makes houses very tight as it is
Right.
already.
But next
so it's
year,
super efficient.
2020.
2020, you'll move to a zero energy ready home, which will increase, let me just say, between 7 and 10% in efficiency.
This is mandatory.
It will be when it's code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is new construction, not
Correct.
existing. Yeah.
Correct.
Isn't that interesting? We've talked
Yeah.
about that one.
But even
yeah,
the
that's coming. All right. Let me ask you one more. California, I think next year is going to require mandatory solar panels on homes, right, as the roof.
Correct.
Is that coming?
Correct.
That's coming our way too, isn't it?
Oh, I can't go so far as to say that.
That's coming. It's coming.
When I say zero energy ready, that means that the electric panel will have space for a solar panel. It will also have conduit up to the roof.
Okay.
So it's easy to make
to make the
install it.
installation.
Right. It's
Okay.
it's thinking ahead so the electrical industry doesn't have to come out and drill holes all over the outside
All
of your
over the
house
house,
and
yeah.
those
Well,
kind
and
of things.
retrofitting's expensive.
Oh yeah,
Retrofitting
absolutely.
is expensive and messy.
But what we try to do is make your house as efficient as possible and not be overly crazy with expending dollars to do that, and then make it available for solar so it's easy to put on solar panels if that's what folks want to do. Now, you're talking about a mandatory program in California. We haven't even had that discussion
It's
yet.
okay.
That's another level of mandatory that I'm not ready to even think about.
It's a whole big difference between mandatory and voluntary, but
Yes,
you know,
it is.
it's you know, these are all good things happening, I think, in the construction business.
But I see a lot of people remodeling those older homes, and they're putting in the smart thermostat,
Yeah.
and they're putting in the tankless hot water and things like that, trying to make it better because they plan on staying there a long time. Plus, you know, there are people that do want to, you know, do what's nice for the earth too.
Well, absolutely.
It's not just about money.
And if you get a score on that new remodeled home, you could change the score from let's say a 3, not that that's bad, but a 3 to a 7. If you did that, how would that affect the real estate transaction?
Yeah, I think
It would
it's
go
gonna
up.
Be,
Would you
yeah.
market
It would
it?
make it more valuable, right?
I think
it's going
realtors
to
catch
be,
that
yeah.
right away. I think
And-
they
Yeah.
get how to market that.
So realtors in Portland have been dealing with this for a while now. So
They have 2 years. 2 years.
2 years, and the scores are out there for anybody to see
Yeah,
on the listing.
almost 16,000 scores have been conducted in Portland, and the realtors really came around. At first, they had opposition to it. They kind of felt like this was another thing to do in the real estate transaction. Things would slow down, and we've proven that it just didn't happen.
Now, there's quite a few assessors up there
Right.
in the metro area
Right.
doing this. Are there any assessors down in our region right
There
now
are people
that
that
people
can
here?
There are people that can reach here. There's not any certified assessors working in your area right now, but that could happen within about a month.
So if Alice wanted to call an assessor to have one of her clients do a home audit here or home assessment, there's no one. We don't have anybody yet. Then right? Is that what you said?
I'd have to check my list,
Okay.
but I don't think
Okay.
there's a certified
Well,
one.
that's an opportunity for some other people too. If that's
Absolutely.
coming our way, and someone like realtors like Alice, and I guess I follow her kind of what she does too. That's going to be kind of a big thing and a big score for people.
Well, and you know, in the meantime, we can batch them together.
Even if it's
You know, we can have
optional.
somebody come down for 2 or 3 days, and we can all get it done. I think it's very exciting. It's good to have more information about what you're buying. It's never a bad thing to have more information about what you're buying
and
or
you-
selling,
yeah.
even for that matter.
And you're going to spend a lot of money on utilities and the whole thing. And again, knowing what you've got, because I certainly have lots of questions about from buyers about, well, the insulation, what's insulated, what's not, and you don't know. And because the inspections sometimes don't go through all of that kind of thing. So how much is this or how much is that?
And what if you're just about to do a remodel? Wouldn't it be great to know what that list looks like?
Oh,
so
that's
you could
the kind of people we
be
want
in
to talk
front
to.
of it. Yeah, that
absolutely.
would be awesome.
And Alice is right. I've seen remodels, lots of them around really the counties, and the remodelers are putting in certainly energy efficient appliances. I've seen a lot of tankless water heaters, a lot of LED lighting is also going into remodels. So even older homes are really you can really get them.
I saw one they
pretty
put
well.
a mirror that had their smartphone things on it. You could talk to the mirror while you were getting ready to go to work, and it had all the it was like something from a movie.
So what's interesting is what you're saying, Roger, is that smart homes, you control your consumption. If you go that direction, and that's what's happening. That's the future with all this, isn't it? You're probably right. I mean, I don't doubt that.
I do think so. I think being able to have more control over your living environment from a distance, even is a really good thing.
Yeah.
It may be in the future where we have time of use rates, so your electric rate or your gas rate would change with the hour of the day. And if you can manage your home from a distance, wouldn't that make a lot of sense?
And we got lots of people who manage wells, manage septic systems, the new technologies that are out there. They're taking more control over those systems to make them more efficient, which costs less money, which makes the environment better, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all kind of works together. That we've got a break coming up here. Interesting discussion today. We're with Roger Kainu from the Oregon Department of Energy. Today's show presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. We got one more segment to go. Pete and Alice, we're coming right back after this. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880 and on YouTube at realestateshoworegon.com. Next week, Guy Giles will be along. We're going to talk interest rates.
Yeah, lots happening with that. It's just crazy.
It's interesting. As long as they stay where they are, and the market is going to continue to do what it's doing because it's an affordability issue for so many people. And as long as those rates are, I saw one at 3.205 this last week.
It's why we have so many buyers in the market, and it's not just entry level people. The people that are in the higher price ranges can buy an even more larger amount
in that luxury market. Anyway, today here on the Real Estate Show, we've been talking home energy efficiency with Roger Kainu, who's from the Oregon Department of Energy, is an energy analyst with them, and developed a statewide program that's in use in Portland, certainly regarding home energy scores and home energy efficiency. And energy, the worst thing you want to do is when those energy bills come in, and you got to be able to control them more because they're not going to go down. They're only going to go up over time, right?
Yeah, and it's also nice if you're going to be selling a home when you can offer that level of information to your next buyer so that they know they're getting a more energy efficient property.
Roger's developed this program, which is a home energy scoring, and so far, so good with it. I mean, it's interesting how you've done it, and I think the biggest issue you face is when you deal with cities like Medford or Jackson County or Grants Pat, everyone's going to have a different view on this in terms of should it be mandatory, should it be voluntary, or how can we implement something even though we all agree it's a good idea?
Well, voluntary is a lot easier. There's no doubt about that. You don't have to press anybody to get anything done. But mandatory, ooh, wow, now we got to have another thing to do in our lives, and people just react to that. I do. So, but mandatory actually, if it's mandatory to have a radon test done, that's a good thing. Get the information out there to the public. Let them know that there might be radon in their home. A home inspection, that's mandatory, right?
You're talking about this being like a home inspection for a seller to have that. A buyer could pay for that if they wanted to, or something like that right now. So you have options, and you both talk about options for consumers, and that's really a big thing.
I've heard that some realtors in Portland actually even pay for the score.
It's
$125. Let's just keep this moving. We'll pay that for their client. Sorry. But and away it goes. But the thing with home energy scores is it not only gives you a score on a scale of 0 to 10, it also and toward the lower level of that scale is a more inefficient home. So if you score an 8, that's a really good home in terms of energy efficiency. The thing that we need to keep in mind, though, with this is there's a lot more information that comes with the report that you'll get. And that report will show you whether or not it has solar on the house, whether there's renewable energy being generated. It'll show you what the estimated annual energy use is. and it'll give all the characteristics of the home, and that tracks with the person that buys that home, so they understand what they just bought. And also, that gives recommendations also. So, and the recommendations are based on a payback of 10 years or less. So if you had a really bad water tank in your home, that would immediately surface up. The report would say, wow, this is a really old tank. It's costing you a lot of money. You want to replace that right away. That's information that someone buying a home can take a look at and say, oh, okay, check. I can just allot that much money for that, or negotiate it in the price of the house. So, and that all that information now can be placed in the multiple listing service or any of the other apps that you have on your smartphone. You see a lot of millennials walking around with smartphones, and they're checking real estate nowadays, and they're going to Zillow, if I can use that term.
Sure.
And they'll look it up, and they can see what the score is of that house and what the characteristics are. So that's all brought to you through the Green Building Registry, which is a product that Earth Advantage, our own Oregon-grown organization, came up with. And that really brings together all the energy efficiency information, all the green attributes of a home, and puts it in one place, and then it's disseminated and broadcast out through the multiple listing service and Zillow and Trulia and those sort of applications.
Green, you called it Green Registry.
Green Building Registry.
Green Building
GBR.
Registry.
Yeah, and it's something you can just
Google that, Green Building Registry. Okay.
and then you
Correct.
can type in an address. I did that earlier.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Very
You
interesting.
would do that. You're just
Yeah.
on top of
Well,
this
I
stuff,
just
aren't
wanted
you?
to
Yep.
see what it was like.
Okay, what came up? What did you find?
My address is not in there. So now I have to have an assessment.
You do. That'll happen for you.
No, but it's very good. You can just do it on your phone.
But you think that's coming our way, Alice, then? I mean, you think this is
I
going to
think
be
people
something
want
that
it.
would be a good thing?
I think people want it.
You do?
Yep, because when they're in the house, they're going on the Power app to see what the utility bill is before I even
Right.
say anything.
Right.
Well,
And
people are certainly asking. I agree with that. They're asking more about this.
well, consumers, when they call up and say, they call their utility and they say, what's the energy usage been like at this home? A customer service rep will respond to that, and they'll give them, well, this is a high for the house and this is a low for the house. And then the next question usually, well, how many people were living in it? Well, a utility doesn't know that.
Doesn't know.
They don't know whether they had 4 aquariums and a heat pump or a irrigation pump, or all those things matter to how consumption happens in a home. So it's not an apples to apples look.
I'd love to see one of the reports.
I would
Just to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Just so I have an idea what you've got on there.
Yeah, and what about swimming pools?
What about them? You swimming in the big holes in the
Right.
ground? No, just,
So I'm just wondering, is that going to bring your score down?
no, that's not a negative. Now the pump would be just a consumption device, and that would be calculated into the score.
Or that would be like if you have a pump, you walk into a place and the pool was put in 1955 and it's still working versus a new pump that's more efficient, that kind of thing, right? You're talking about? Yeah, that's what scoring would be different on those things, right?
Is that how efficient, what the attributes are in the home that affect efficiency? A pool in itself won't do that.
Yeah.
You could just have it
Interesting.
be cold.
No, you don't have to heat it.
This
Right.
is true.
You sold it. We're almost out of time. Solar energy.
Solar energy,
And,
yes.
and wind even. I mean,
It's a coming thing. There's a lot more people in Oregon actually taking up solar. Contractors are definitely busy, and many more people are accepting the idea of solar. So there's a really good instrument you can look at on the Energy Trust of Oregon's website that'll look at your address and tell you whether or not the orientation of the home and the roof pattern
pitch,
of the pitch
works,
and all that, whether or not it's oriented to in a way that would be a good spot for solar. So, and especially in the Medford area, you get so much sunlight down here. It's not
we see a lot, yeah.
It's not true like in up and down the freeway. If you go more north, you're going to run into Portland.
It's why everybody
or
should live
rain.
here.
Well, oh, I see. But
All the sunny days.
you can get a lot of sun, and there's a lot of solar going on in the Portland area even, and
So-
north of that.
And I think people don't understand you don't have to own a system. You could
That's correct. You don't have
rent
to
or
own it.
lease. How does that work?
Well, yes, you can lease it by going through a solar contractor that has a leasing agreement. Those are really widespread, but really be careful with that. Make sure you understand what terms you're getting into, because with a lease, you have to do something with it if you're going to sell the house. It has to go to the next person, or you take it with you and pay off the lease.
And how much, if you create, how much energy do you get versus the guy get versus you get if you have a lease and you're sharing that, if you're producing excess power.
And if you
how
take it
much
with
that
you,
is.
who fixes the roof?
Right.
It's okay when you go to replace your roof after 2020, it's going to be with probably solar panels along the way as well. So, hey, there's a lot happening in the energy efficiency
is.
world, isn't there?
Do
I
we
didn't
have
realize that.
any solar collectible roof tiles? So we don't have to have like solar.
Actually,
solar.
there
Can we
is.
just have
Elon Musk developed a roof tile, and it's not cheap, but there is that technology out there.
Out there now. Well,
Yeah.
see, it's all coming around. We're out of time. We got to go. Roger, thank you for coming and spending
Thanks
some
so
time
much
with
for
us.
having
and
me.
Good luck with you. And you know, that's a great program. So we're going to see how it goes. Come back
Very good.
again. You need to do is come back and talk to more realtors about this in the public
I'm
more and
available.
more. Would you do that? Because I think what you've got to say is really important that people need to hear.
Well, I'd like to help people.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, you're back out of there. Got a big week ahead.
always.
Here, off we go. That'll do it for the Real Estate Show today. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Brett Nance for our camera operator today
Thank
on our
you, Brett.
YouTube show. Susan Ledoux's been with us from Arvar as well. We thank her as well.
Thank you,
Today's
Susan.
show was presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. For Alice Lima, I'm Pete Belcastro. Have a great week, everybody, and God bless you all.